Welcome back. Although Eskom's reported a net loss after tax of 20.7 billion rand for the 2019 financial years, analysts say that's still less than what was expected. The power utility blamed the loss on a lower than expected 5.23% tariff increase and a 1.82% decline in sales volumes, an above inflation wage settlement with unions and an increase in escalating municipal debt. These results were the last for the outgoing CEO Phakami Hadebe, whose last day is on the last day of July, tomorrow. Eskom Chair Jabu Mabuza will now take over as acting CEO until a permanent replacement is found. Our reporter Liabo Setho spoke to the Energy Analyst Ted Blom to get his view on Eskom's latest sets of results and other issues around the parastatal.
The results, as you correctly said, weren't as bad as I thought they would be, but nevertheless, it still leaves Eskom very deep in the red. And unfortunately, today was the first time we actually heard of the so-called turnaround plan. Apparently, this has got 4 legs to it, but this was apparently adopted by the board in November last year. So I'm not quite sure why it's been a state secret for more than 8 months. But nevertheless, they've got a turnaround plan. The only problem I have with the turnaround plan has got no meat around it. It's vague promises, and in fact, if the CFO is to be believed, and they are busy reclaiming and opening up tariff increase applications, if I add them all up, together with the one that's not yet submitted, which he alluded to, of 27 billion, we're looking at about an 80% further increase in electricity tariffs.
Are we concerned enough, though, about the municipal debt, the fact that of the 40 billion rand, half of that is just for Soweto alone? And it seems like there's no plan to actually recoup the money back for the power utility.
My views about recouping past expenditure or debt on electricity is very sanguine. It's not possible. The fact of the matter is, if there's an asset that you've got as collateral, you can claim that back and go and collect it and go through the legal process. But in terms of collecting a consumable that's been consumed over the last 10 or 15 years, I don't think it's possible. And I think it's time that Eskom takes a write-off on that, and then we'll see the real numbers coming out.
Everyone else seems to have a problem with the succession of the CEO. We know that Phakami Hadebe leaves tomorrow, and that some on Twitter have described Mr. Mabuza's tenure as doing everything, being the player and the referee. Are you satisfied with the minister's response to this?
I'm not quite satisfied, and I don't believe it's in the interest of proper corporate governance for an executive chairman to now also be the executive CEO, notwithstanding the fact that the chairman acknowledged his own conflicts of interest at the Zondo Commission. So I'm not happy with that, and I'm also not happy that Eskom has done proper succession planning. This very resignation has shown they've been caught with their pants down, and that's a fact.
And just lastly, I was looking at their cash flow statement. I mean, it was quite disappointing that towards this reporting period, they only had 2 billion rand in the bank. How have they been doing operational stuff and also paying salaries with that little in the bank?
Okay, so that's part of the smoke and mirrors that I was referring to, that there's not a clear explanation as to how they've been surviving, as well as not a proper explanation as to how they managed not to load shed. I think South Africans, I think they have done some load shedding. They've done it to our foreign neighbors, and again, increased transparency would go a long way to restoring confidence in the utility.